Rejection is not about worth, it's about alignment. When you attach yourself to the timeline, you become so devoted to the deadline that you lose out on the dream. The people that are looking for you can't find you if you're busy being someone else. Failure is so important. It is one of the most important pieces of data that you will ever get in your life, because when you fail, you know what ingredients created the failure and you can see what not to do next time. Hi everyone, welcome to the Reclaiming Bossy podcast. My name is Mahika. And today I want to do a little birthday episode for the podcast and for myself, because I turned 23 and the podcast turns 3 years old. Crazy, right? And I want to share 22 things that I learned at 22. We're going to speed run everything and it's going to be a whole download of life lessons. I've been doing this since I was 16 years old on camera, because I had a little YouTube channel before I started this podcast. And I have been making these reflections since I was about 13. And they have been on my notes. I have loved making these because I have seen the lessons that I have learned and relearned throughout my life and grown and changed. And I think that if you're watching this, I hope this gives you the inspiration to make a list like this for yourself, and you can see how smart you are and how much wisdom you acquire throughout your life, and how, again, so many things we learn and then we relearn with new context and new characters and new stories and new everything. You are my family on this podcast. I love you. You have been building with me since I turned 20 years old. And I want to share some of the wins and the flops and the in-betweens, and more importantly, the lessons. So I hope that you can celebrate with me. Get a snack, get a drink. This is going to be a cozy, comfy episode. I've got my drink here. And we're going to talk about the 22 things I learned at 22. Number one is this whole idea of the people that are looking for you can't find you if you're busy being someone else. I'm going to repeat that again. The people that are looking for you can't find you if you're busy being someone else. I spent so much of my life growing up thinking that I needed to be different, to be accepted, to feel safe, to feel worthy. I changed my name. I changed the way that I dressed. I changed the way that I used to want to have green eyes and have blue eyes, and I would talk really formally and I would try and sound more posh and whatever. I would just change myself every time I went into a room because I wanted to be accepted, and I thought I can't change my environment always because I grew up South Asian, Indian in a really, really white town. I thought, let me change myself. And I got so used to that I found it really, really hard to be authentic because I didn't even know what that looked like. This podcast has been amazing for me because I have relearned who I am. And now I'm so unapologetically Mahika Singh and bossy, and I love it. And every time that I try and think of the times that have been most successful in my career and in my life, it has not been the time where I've used the perfect strategy or I have been super polished or have been super formal. It is the time where I have been radically authentic. And so I need you to be radically authentic and brave, because the people that are looking for you cannot find you if you're busy being someone else. This links into the second point, because with this means that you are going to attract the right people, but in the process, the wrong people are going to find you and they're not going to want to deal with you. Now, that's not a bad thing. You will become more and more magnetic the more you become, but magnets, as well as attracting, they repel. And if you repel people, you are doing your job correctly. Now, don't repel by being nasty and unnecessary and rude and whatever, but if you are just being yourself and people don't like it, that is good, because it means that you are being something that is authentic and aligned, that someone can have an opinion about. Most people that are loved by everyone, I was loved by everyone for a short period of my life, are miserable because they're constantly bending themselves out of shape to make other people happy. And so magnets attract, but they repel too. And if you are not liked by everyone, then you're probably doing something right, because you don't like everyone. Let's be so for real. So the more attractive you become, the more you repel the wrong people and the misaligned people. And instead of filtering yourself every time you walk into a new room, let's filter the room by being so yourself that only the right people can come to you. Okay, number 3. If someone is meant to come into your life, they will. And if someone is meant to come back into your life, they will. The video that I made last year for the 21 things I learned in 21, I talked about a friendship breakup that was really, really hard. And this whole idea of like misalignment and whatever. Now, that person and I are back in each other's lives 1 year later in a different capacity. Like, we're not as close, but we are friends. And I was really, really sad when that friendship ended because it was hard. I really, really loved that person a lot. And it felt like a big loss. But I was able to bring them back into my life in a way that worked for me now and worked for them. And I want to talk about how this is not the only time it's happened in my life. There's been times where I've had friendship breakups where we have made up a year later, a few months later, many, many, many years later. I have a childhood friend that I kind of lost contact with, who is my best friend growing up, that we didn't speak to each other for like 4 or 5 years. And now we're in each other's lives again. And it makes me super, super happy as well. And so if someone is meant to be in your life, nothing can take that away from you, and they will come back in a time that is aligned and right. You just have to trust it, and you have to trust that things work out. If you're a good person and if you behave in accordance to your values and you're kind, you're not always going to be people pleasery and nice. And I don't want you to be people pleasery and nice, and I don't want myself to be people pleasery and nice. But if you're kind and communicative, the right people will always come back. They will always come back into your life. And in the meantime, you learn and you grow and you change as a person. So you get to meet each other at the different versions that you are in different periods of your life. I wrote a piece about this on Substack some time ago around how when I was younger, I used to always open the book and read the last page before reading the rest of the book. Because if the ending was bad, I didn't want to know how it started. I didn't want to know the story. And I was always a sucker for happy endings. And that kind of created this mentality of like really, really feeling negative and pessimistic when something didn't work out and when something ended. But now I know that the end is often not the end. And it's important to focus on beginnings and not focus on what goes wrong every time, because things go wrong. Sometimes things go wrong, but that's never the end. And it could be the end with some people, but it's never the end for your life and your journey. And if it's the right person, the right friend, the right whatever, they will come back into your life. Now, this is not me telling you to get back with your ex. Please don't take it that way. Because the fourth point is that if someone is not meant for your life, nothing that you do or say or believe or think is going to keep that in your life. There's so many times where I have really, really, really wanted something, whether it be an opportunity, a job, a position, a relationship, a friendship, and it has not worked out. And I have tried to force it so much because I believed that it was the right thing for me. And then only with time do I realize that that was not aligned. And having space, I realized like, oh my God, I have so much opportunity for new and more authentic things for me. But if something is not meant for you, it is not going to be in your life. You are going to go sick and miserable trying to force it into your life. And I've had that as well. And I talk about this in my breakup episode on this podcast. I had a lot of love for my previous partner, but that was not aligned. And there were so many things that meant that like I literally physically couldn't stay in that relationship because we were redirected from each other. There was this whole thing around like, I said to the universe, I was like, if this is not the right person for me, please get rid of them, please remove them. And he had some issues with his passport and he literally physically couldn't come and see me and we broke up. And so if something is not meant for you, it will not. You cannot fit a square peg in a circle hole. Like it's not going to fit. And that's okay. And once you accept that, you actually create space for things that do flow and do work out. And there's no shame and no harm in failure. Number 5 is all around failure and this idea that failure, we give such a bad rep to failure, but failure is so important. It is one of the most important pieces of data that you will ever get in your life, because when you fail, you know what ingredients created the failure and you can see what not to do next time, and you learn. And honestly, you were created from your flop moments, not your slay moments, not your success moments. All of the good stuff that happens in your life has come from the perseverance and the resilience and the learning and the trial and error from the bad days, not the good days. The good days are when you get to celebrate all of the stuff that you learn on the medium and the bad days. And so every time you fail, get excited, because once the deck reshuffles, once everything starts to slowly kind of, you integrate all those learnings and you take the next steps, you are one step closer to your next big win. I have a friend called Dougal who wrote a really, really wonderful book called Fail Smarter, and I'm going to link it down below because it's awesome. But this is something that you need to remember. Like, failure is literally, it's a part of life. It's an inevitability. if you're doing anything of consequence, you are going to fail. And if you fail, then you're only one step closer to the next thing. And so you have to celebrate that. Okay, next, number 6. Everything in your life requires space and time. If you want something, you have to make time and space for it. And this links into work and creating a project or a business or whatever, but it also links into friendships and relationships. I got into my first relationship in this last year, and I have always been a very independent girl boss person. And to be honest, like, I wanted to just be me and just be Mahika and just be a woman before I became a girlfriend or anyone else's partner. And I crammed my calendar. I still do. I love being busy. I love having all of these different things, but I did not have time for anyone, and I did not want to make time because I was so defensive and gatekeepy of my time and energy. But this whole like manifesting a relationship and making time for a relationship and making time for love, like this whole I don't chase, I attract thing wasn't working out for me because I didn't have time to attract. And so if you want something and you feel like you're not getting it, you have to ask yourself whether you're making time and space for it. When I decided I actually did want a relationship and I wanted to experience it, I decided to create time and space to go on one day a week. And as soon as I made that decision, it wasn't I'm going to get a boyfriend or I'm going to find someone. It was I'm just going to make time and space for relationships. And I met my previous partner on week 2 of this challenge. And so if you want something, you have to make time and space for it. We all have the same 168 hours in the week. If you want to focus on your health and you want that dream body, are you making time and space to work on your health goals, to train? If you want to start a business, are you making time and space to work on a business plan? If you want a relationship, are you making time and space to go on those dates? It's as simple as that. Everything in life requires time and space. And if you don't have time and space, then you're not prioritizing it. And if you're not prioritizing it, it's fine. It's okay. You can't prioritize everything all at once, but don't then make yourself suffer because you're not getting it. It's as simple as literally just creating the energy and the space for it. The next point is all about how people always talk about chemistry and compatibility in relationships and also in friendships and whatever. But I think that more than chemistry and compatibility, you have to question people's capacity. It's often not a question of love. It's a question of capacity. You might love your friends so much, but if you don't have the capacity to hang out with them, you either need to make the capacity to hang out with them, or you need to communicate, hey, I'm stretched thin right now with work and with life, and I don't have the same amount of time, but I still love you and I'm going to make it up in different ways. And you have to have that talk. With a relationship, you might not have the capacity. You might not have equal amounts of time, energy, mental capacity to give to each other, and that's okay. You can talk about that and you can work through that, but sometimes relationships end because of a mismatch of capacity, not just a mismatch of love. And once you understand that, that's so important, because then you don't feel unloved. You realize that it's just someone else's difference in budget of how much energy and time and resources they can give you, and you understand that more and more when you have a smaller capacity. And you realize that you still care about the person, but you just have a smaller capacity. And so don't question their love, question their capacity. I've said this word so many times. It's time to move on to the next point. Speaking of capacity, when you have a small capacity and you have a small budget and you feel stretched thin, don't quit. Rest. Rest, don't quit. Rest. Please rest. Make time. There are 7 types of rest. If you feel stretched thin, the answer is not just to go and take naps and watch lots of Netflix. That is an amazing solution, but it's not the only solution. And if you're doing that and you still feel stretched thin, then there are 6 other types of rest. There is mental rest, emotional rest, sensory rest, creative rest. There are so many different types of rest. And I will link an article down below about the different types of rest. But please, 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 when you feel tired, rest and don't quit. We always put the towel down when we feel burnt out and exhausted. It's always better to leave and quit something in a moment of neutrality or high than when you feel low, because you never know if you shut something down because you felt burnt out or because it was not the right decision. And so when you feel tired and exhausted, rest. Take a beat, take a pause. It's so much better to make a decision once you take a pause and you reflect rather than being super reactive. And so how can you rest a little bit more? The next point is around like healing. So this is linked to rest and how you're going to have ups and downs throughout your life. When I started this podcast, I was kind of going through a healing journey, and I was finishing my first year of therapy I'd ever had in my life. I had quite a difficult first year of university, and so I decided to go get therapy, which was a huge thing for me as like South Asian and young girl, and like I just had loads of like mental barriers around it, and it was awesome. And by the time I turned 20 and I launched this podcast, I felt so good and I felt so confident and I felt so powerful that I was ready. I was ready for world domination, and I was ready to kind of take a break away from therapy and just be in existence mode. I didn't need to be in healing mode all the time. It's now been 3 years and I've had an incredible 3 years, but more recently this year, I started to feel really burnt out. I was so tired. I'm running a business myself full time. I was getting out of this relationship. That was my first relationship. I felt like sick a lot of the time. I had this crazy hormonal acne and I wanted to show up for the podcast, but I felt so gross and weird and insecure about showing up. And I just felt like I wanted some support. So I went back into therapy. But the first call I had with a therapist, I literally broke down and I had a massive mental breakdown and I started to cry because I felt this shame of failing my healing journey. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I can never get this right. I failed my healing journey. I'm back here. How did I get back here? I want to talk about how healing, first of all, it's not this thing that you put your life on pause and you start to do and you do all the healthy habits and the therapy and the balancing your chakras and the yoga and the whatever. It is a mode. It is a tool that you switch on, and it's one that you are going to need throughout your life. You do not need to have it all the time. There are moments where you will be existing and focusing on healing is just not right. But after existing in different intensities and time frames, it's okay to want support and want healing. And so I went back to therapy this year and I had a lot of shame about it. But now I feel so lucky and so proud that I feel like I can, and I care about myself enough that I want that. And I'm actually now getting to a point where I'm feeling really good and I don't necessarily need that much mental support for the next few months, and maybe I take another break and I go back, and I anticipate that I'm gonna keep going back. I'm gonna keep going back and I'm gonna keep learning and growing and healing. And so if you ever have a little wobble with your mental health, your reminder is that healing is a lifelong journey and you're not behind and you're not flopping, and you can never fail your healing journey. I ended up writing an article about this on my Substack, and it got published in the Open Letters by Hasif, which is one of my favorite Substacks. And I'm going to link it down below because I want anyone who kind of resonates with this to go and read that and see that we're all on this journey of like feeling better and kind of growing our capacity through different tools. So you can never fail your healing journey. Okay, next up is take a moment to exist between achievements. So as I was saying, sometimes we're so focused on optimization and healing that we're always like, how can I get better? How can I reach the next milestone? How can I do this? I've been this girl my whole life. I make vision boards, I make plans, I make lists. I love being the best version of myself. Unlocking my potential feels like the most juicy, expansive, amazing thing that I can do. But this year, I've become way more intentional in just giving myself the permission to exist in between. You don't have to always be your best self. You don't always have to keep jumping from milestone to milestone. You can just be yourself and exist sometimes. And you should. And you should celebrate that, and you should soak it in, and you should integrate all of that. I learned this because since I turned 22, I decided to go and run a half marathon in Lisbon. And I have always been the last picked in PE unsporty girl at school. And I decided that I was going to go run a half marathon. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I trained for so many months. I only ran up to 13 kilometers before in my training. And then on race day, it was a spiritual experience. I was literally like giving myself a pep talk for like 2.5 hours. It was 30 degrees. It was so hot. It was so hilly. And I pushed myself, and I thought that crossing that line was going to be insurmountable. It felt impossible, but I did it. And I was so proud and I was so happy. But I'm going to be so for real, guys. As soon as I crossed that line, within 5 seconds, my brain went, oh, maybe you should have run a full marathon. Maybe you should have run it faster. Maybe next time you need to do high rocks. Maybe. And I went, no, we're not doing this today. And I shut all of those thoughts down, and I was like, let's just go get a pizza. And I got a pizza the size of my upper body, And I went and I did karaoke with all the other people that ran the marathon in my hostel. And I said to myself that I wasn't allowed to set another goal for some time. And I was just meant to enjoy this. This is called the arrival fallacy. A lot of us, we seek the pursuit of running towards something more than actually reaching that place. And it's important that before you run to the next place, you fuel up and you stop and you see how much you've done. And so please give yourself permission to exist in the in-between. That is the next one. The next lesson is around how people always talk about the fear of failure, but actually a lot of us carry a fear of success too. And when big wins happen, we actually feel really dysregulated, because if you have this identity of someone who's always working towards something, when you become the person who's reaching something or someone who has achieved something, it can be really, really dysregulating. Since I turned 22, I graduated top of my class on the Dean's List. I had my dissertation nominated for the National Prize. I became one of the UK's top 100 female founders. I had my work published in publications and newsletters that I love. I wrote for The Independent about my business. The Independent is the UK's largest independent newspaper with 18 million monthly readers. And I had all of these big wins. I ran a marathon. I got into my first relationship, got out of my first relationship. I did all of these different things. It was a big year. But every time I hit one of these big milestones, I had this like mini panic attack. And I thought everyone was going to hate me because they were going to say like, who does she think she is? Or I had this anxiety of like, how am I going to keep this up? How am I going to keep this up? How am I going to achieve the next thing? How am I going to keep up this momentum? But it's so important that you regulate yourself in those moments and you realize that I'm safe, I'm worthy, I deserve this win, I am worthy of success, and this success is safe. People are rooting for me. People are happy for me. I'm happy for me. I can enjoy this. This is really hard. When I had all of my wins, I started to freak out. I was like, people are going to think I'm arrogant. They're going to think I'm a bitch. I don't really want to deal with this. And it felt easier to be someone who's working towards a big goal than someone who's achieved a big goal. If you're someone who is in pursuit, start to mentally prime yourself that success is coming and you are worthy and deserving of that success. And when that success comes, enjoy it and don't freak out. And if you freak out, you're normal. It's okay. I freak out too. But what can you do to recognize that and regulate yourself? Okay, next point. Hard work is not the most important ingredient. Now, this is something that is a lesson that I think I'm going to have to learn and relearn and unlearn so many times in my life, because hard work is something that I used to really value. Working hard, whenever I'd achieve something, I'd say, thank you, I worked really hard for it. Or people would be like, oh my God, you work so hard. But I'm learning to kind of divorce my relationship with hard work, because hard work doesn't necessarily always correlate to success. And I think a lot of us use hard work as a way to justify our success. I'm a good person, that I am successful and I received all of these amazing things because I worked hard. Why can't you just be a good person and be successful? When you unnecessarily struggle to prove that you are hardworking, you are slowing yourself down and you are making yourself miserable. Stop trying to prove that you're hardworking. There will be times where you need to sprint and you need to put in a little bit of extra effort, but save those reserves and stop just trying to work hard every single day for the sake of working hard. Pick a place that you want to go and then make a plan and work towards it. And actually, if you pick an authentic and aligned path and you do some self-discovery of what you actually want and you figure out what's important for you, sometimes it's not that hard. When I started my business, it was difficult, but it wasn't hard in the sense that I put in loads and loads of, like, I was struggling. I was not struggling. I picked something that I really cared about, that I knew how to do, that I wanted to help other people with, who I really cared about. And yes, it's a hard thing because it's resilience and you have to keep coaching yourself and you have to keep pushing and trying. But I didn't struggle all the time just for the sake of it. And it was actually a lot more easier than applying for jobs and getting rejected again and again and again and again from jobs and making the CV, because it was authentic and aligned to me. And so instead of obsessing with struggle and working hard, how can you obsess with creating a vision that is so you, that it becomes slightly easier because you can lean into your talents, into your network, into your experiences, into your special. Everyone has something special about them. If you tap into what's special about you, You don't have to struggle and work hard all the time. And you don't need to prove a point. We are not proving a point anymore. This summer is the summer of being. It's not the summer of proving. Your success is something that you are going to experience. It's not something that you have to exhibit to every single person ever. And so hard work is not the most important ingredient. Okay, next. Visibility is currency and you can use it as leverage. Okay, this is what I do with my work. So it's not the most hardworking people that win. It's the most visible. Visibility is currency because if people can see what you're doing, they can contribute. They can invest in you, they can buy from you, they can join your community, they can learn from you, you can help them, they can help you. So visibility is currency and invisibility has a cost. Now, because of that, my business works with founders, creators, and business owners, brands to help with their visibility, to help with their communication online and offline so that they can be more visible and they can have more inbound opportunities. If you're working really, really, really hard, but you're not being visible, then you're losing out. Let me give you an example. I wanted some South Asian representation for my podcast. Now, I could have done some outreach and made a database of 100 different creators, brands, and people and sent every single person an email. This is what I've done in the past. This is what I did when I started the podcast, when I wanted to get people on. That would have taken me a few days. What I ended up doing instead, before I did this, was I made a video. And I made a video saying, if you are a South Asian creator, brand, founder, I want you to send me a message. My name is Mahika. I'm creating this season. I want to tell your story. I want you to be featured. This is the kind of people I'm looking for. This is how we can collaborate. This is what you need to do. Within the day, I received 50 messages. Within 2 days, I received 100 messages of amazing people that were keen, that were building businesses, that were creating amazing things, that sent me these really, really beautiful messages. And these are people that I didn't know existed. And so I wouldn't have reached out to them because I didn't know they existed. These people found me. And so if you can be visible, you can create loads of inbound luck as well as the outreach and the outreach kind of opportunities that you give yourself. So how can you work on being more visible is one of the questions I want to leave you with. Next, 14. Comparing yourself is human, but it's important to use it as data. Just like failure is data, comparison, jealousy, and envy is data. When you compare yourself to other people, it comes from the scarcity mindset that there's only one space for one successful person. I think if you're a woman watching this, a lot of this comes from like this whole thing around being the it girl and this it girl narrative where there's one Regina George and she's the queen bee of the school and you want to be the it girl. I wanted to be the it girl growing up and I never was. I was a weird brown friend and I never felt cool and fun and whatever. And I really, really, really wanted to be the it girl. And I think when I was in my early 20s, I was like really, really trying to be this it girl, but it creates this competition with your friends, with your peers, with the people around you, that there's only space for one person. No, there's not. There's not only one top dog. There's a reason that people say it's lonely at the top, and it's because they're only creating a top with a space for one person. What if we create a top where it's like a tier system, and when you are the top of you and you are the best in your field and your game and you are the most you can be, you're at your like high level. There are people that are going to be doing that for themselves, that are going to be operating on the same level. They are not your competition. They are your collaborators. They are your collaborators, they are your inspiration. Stop feeling jealous of them. Know that that is possible for you. Every time you see someone have something that you want, they are not taking that opportunity from you. They are showing you that it's possible for yourself. And so how can you make it more possible for yourself? Next is the timeline curse. Okay, again, if you're a woman watching this, I need you to listen extra close. This is something that affects everyone, but my girly pops especially. So many people are obsessed with the timeline. They want to be Forbes 30 under 30. I wanted to be Forbes 30 under 30. I still do. They want to have children by 30. They want to get married by a certain age. They want to have their first good job by a certain age. We timeline so many of our dreams. We have this rigid timeline for when things need to happen, how they need to happen. And your timeline is making you sick. It's making you uncomfortable and it's making you settle for something that isn't aligned because you're so scared that you're not going to meet the thing by the time you want to meet the thing. So you're rushing. You're rushing through your life and you're anxious and you're creating this like anxiety of like, how am I going to get there in time? I see a lot of people do it with relationships where they want to have kids by a certain age or they want to get married. And I understand the biological implications of this. But to be honest, we're now in a time where there are so many other options in terms of freezing your eggs, in terms of adoption, in terms of like IVF, surrogacy, whatever. There are so many options. You are never going to be in a situation where you can't have your dream. It might look a bit different to the way that you thought it would look, but you're still going to get it. And it's the same with career. What if you become a millionaire and successful at 32 and not 30? Does that mean that you're not successful? What if you meet the love of your life at 35 and not at 29? Does that mean that you're not going to have love in your life? When you attach yourself to the timeline, you become so devoted to the deadline that you lose out on the dream. And I'm telling you that the dream is always, always worth it. And in my life, when I have stuck to the dream, it's panned out differently when I've let go of the deadline. I had certain things that I wanted by a certain time and it didn't happen, and it took me a bit longer, but it happened with more momentum, with more collaboration, with more resources, with more money, with more visibility, more exposure, more luck than if it would have at the time. If something is not meeting your timeline, it's because you need some more steps on the way. I talk about the scenic route last year in this episode. It's so true. Sometimes life takes you on a scenic route. You're still going to get to the destination. You might just not take the expressway, and that's a good thing. You want to take the scenic route. You want to see all the cool shit on the way. Go and explore and enjoy. And please, please, please break up with the deadline. Fall in love with the dream. Don't fall in love with the deadline. This is one of the most important things I learned this year. Fall in love with the dream. Don't fall in love with the deadline, because the timeline is ruining your life. It's making you miserable. Okay, next. Number 16 is around the importance of self-permitting and self-validating. This is one that I keep learning, but it's about, in order to stop caring what other people think, you have to start asking yourself what you think first. You have to start giving yourself the permission and the validation that you crave from other people. If you want to do the thing, if you want to get into that relationship, if you want to move to that country, if you want to start that business, if you want to learn that language, you have to give yourself permission that you're going to do that, and then you have to hype yourself up that you're the boss for doing that, you know? You can't expect every single person to be constantly giving you attention and rooting for you for every stage of everything that you're building and doing and creating. Once you learn to self-permit and self-validate, you are unstoppable, because you can do whatever you put your mind to. And I think a lot of us don't do something because we're scared of what other people think. But once you learn to self-permit and self-validate, everyone else believes in your vision 10 times more. So how can you self-permit and self-validate a little bit more? I've done a full podcast episode on this. It's something that's very vulnerable to me. I had like crazy acne, and I was talking about accepting yourself and everything. But if you want to know more about this, go check that one out. I'm going to link it down below. Okay, next. 17. Confidence is built on action, not applause. You have to act before you can overthink your way out of something. If you want to build more confidence, confidence is built on evidence, and evidence is built on action. So if you want to do something, if you want to feel more confident, you have to build evidence that you can do it. And to do that, you need to do it. For example, I am confident in speaking on camera because I have spent 3 years of my life recording my voice, and the last 2 years of my life speaking on camera. I love speaking on camera. I love being in videos. I love taking pictures. I love being in pictures because I've done it so much. I feel confident running a business because I've done it for a year now. There's so many days where I still feel imposter syndrome. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I decided to do it scared, and I decided to do it anyways. You do not get your confidence from all the awards you win and your accolades. You get it from putting in the work every day, from the training, whether you're training for a marathon. That's another example. I wasn't confident to run the race because I ran the race. I was confident because I trained 3 times a week for 6, 7, 8 months. How can you put in the reps? How can you do the action? That is how you're going to build the confidence. It's not the applause. The applause is a symptom of the action. It's not a cause of your confidence. It's a symptom of your confidence. Okay, next. This is linked to exactly what I was saying before, of act before you overthink. So many people overthink and they want something that they create to be perfect. And our perfectionism stops us, but it's also a way of keeping us safe, because we're so scared that we're going to get judged for what we're doing that we try and make it perfect because we think we only have one shot to get it right. But the reality is you will always iterate. You have to put something out in the world. You have to see what other people think and how it's received and what you think, and then you can make it better. I used to have this at university where I would literally sit in the library and not be able to write anything for 6 hours because I wanted it to be perfect. And then I was like, okay, at first is 70%. Let me just aim for 70, and then I can go from 70 to 100 on the page. Once I've written, I can make it better. It's so much better and easier to make something that's done and edit it and make it better and better rather than trying to make something perfect from the first try. Get going and then you get good. If you're trying to make something, whether it be a podcast, a business, a project, a hobby, a product, make it to the 70% of your capacity, and then the 70 to 100% you can bridge while you're building. You can bridge whilst you're moving. Aim for 70% and then it's out in the world, baby. Like, trust that. So how can you get to that first 70%? And if you're brave, lower that bar a little bit more. Can you do 65%? And then you can get closer and closer and closer. You still want something that you make to be high quality and the best of your standards. But sometimes we have super high standards because we're trying to protect ourselves from the reality of actually being rejected and being exposed and people not caring and people not wanting what we have to offer. And so just start the thing, just do it. Okay, next, number 19. We're getting closer and closer to the end. You only need one yes. So this links into the idea that you don't need every single person to say yes to you. And yes, when you shoot your shot loads of times, you're going to get loads of no's, but that's good. You don't need every single person to say yes to you. With relationships, you don't need every single person to say yes to you because you only need one yes to form that relationship. With work, you only need one yes if you apply for loads and loads of jobs. With this podcast, I decided to do an international season in Amsterdam earlier this year as the first international season. And I sent out messages to 50 female founders. So many of them ghosted me and didn't respond. I only got one yes, but I only needed that one yes because I spoke to her and I was like, do you know anyone interesting? And through her network, I got the next interview as well. And so you only need one yes as the first domino to create what you're creating. And once you stop thinking, oh, I need everyone to say yes to me, then you lower the bar and you make it easier and you put down the pressure. You only need one yes. And if you only need one yes, then it's a numbers game. Reach out to however many people you need. If you only need one yes to get a good job, then how can you reach out to enough people that you get that one yes? If you only need one yes to create that project, how many people can you reach out to? And again, we talked about inbound and visibility and how you can create more opportunities, but you only need one yes. It's a lot lower stakes than you think it is. You only need one yes. And if you want to pitch yourself in these comments. What's something that you want support, collaboration with? I would love to hear, because maybe I could be one of your one yeses, or someone else in these comments could be one of your one yeses. And so you only need one yes. We're getting closer and closer to the end. The next one is around depersonalizing failure and rejection. Rejection is not about worth, it's about alignment. I talked about this last year, but it's something I learned again this year. Rejection is not about your worth. When you get no's, it's not about your worth, it's about alignment. And I understand that now because I'm so aligned and authentic to who I am that I say no to a lot of things just because it doesn't feel like me. And so when people say no to me, I realize that's just because it's not the right fit. It's not because I'm not good enough. And you understand this more and more when you say no, and when you are the one who has to turn away opportunities or people because you just don't think it's the right fit. But when you depersonalize it, you can see it for what it is, and you can use the energy to create things that you actually care about, that are actually you. And so depersonalize it, get rid of it, and think about all the yeses that you have and all the things that you want and you need. You can keep all the failures in one little drawer so that you can go back and make a list. Actually, go and make a list of all the things that haven't worked out that you were really upset about, because I promise you, you don't care about most of those things anymore, but there was a time where that thing was keeping you awake at night. There are so many different things that I have had that have really, really troubled me, whether it be friendship breakups, like end of relationships, situationships, work things, getting rejected from opportunities, getting rejected from the university I wanted to go to, not hearing back, getting ghosted, having this, having that, going through traumatic experiences. I have a list on my phone now of shit that I thought was the end of the world that literally does not cross my mind anymore. I literally just do not care. And if you can look at that and you can see that used to consume me and I don't care, what's consuming you now is going to become inconsequential, irrelevant. And so depersonalize your failure, get rid of things that are taking up too much space in your mind. And if something is bothering you, it's okay. You're a human. You're allowed to feel it. You're allowed to feel sad. But remind yourself, I've got through it once. I'm going to get through it again and again and again. And I probably will. If you put yourself out there, you will probably go through failure. You will probably go through rejection. You will probably go through heartbreak. But that is just the speed bumps along the way of building a bold, bossy, delicious, happy, beautiful life. The last one is around embarrassment is a choice. So this links to this idea that I was just saying around rejection. When we get rejected, when people don't respond to us, when we feel bad, we get embarrassed. But actually feeling embarrassed is kind of just a choice. I don't really feel embarrassed anymore because I back myself. I'm a very open person. I've cried on the internet. I have done so many things that maybe are embarrassing. I am cringe. But you know what? I am me, and embarrassment is a choice. If I don't choose to feel embarrassed, if you choose to feel embarrassed, that's on you. That's on you. If you are watching this and you feel embarrassed by me, first of all, thank you for the engagement. Thank you for watching. Second of all, I actually just don't care. I actually really just don't care because I back myself and I think it's important. And I surround myself with people who make me feel confident, inspired, empowered, happy. And so if you are watching this and you're scared of doing something because you're scared of being embarrassed, surround yourself with people who make you feel confident and do the thing that is so you, that it really doesn't matter if anyone else finds it embarrassing because who cares? It's so you that the people who find it embarrassing are not meant for you. The last bit of advice is this idea that you can always start again. I have had some running themes throughout these 22 lessons. They have been about rejection, alignment, worth, learnings, taking all that data and starting again. You can always start again. This year, I have gone through so many starting again. I left university and I was like, I don't know how to start again. I don't know how to start my life. I was already running a business, but I was so tired. I was like, I don't know how to start. I went through a breakup. I don't know how to start again. I'm too tired. I love my life right now. I'm so happy. I'm so content. And it took time, but I was able to start again. I wasn't sure how I was going to start again when I had to let go of 2 people from my team, but I did. And my team is stronger than ever now. And my work is really good. And you can always start again, and you will. And every time you press the reset button, every time you want a better hand in life, you're going to have to reshuffle the deck. And you can always start again. And that reshuffling takes time and it takes energy, and you do not have to be perfect from day one. You can pause, you can reflect, you can give yourself time to just let the cards fall down. But if shit is hitting the fan and you're not happy, you are about to reshuffle the deck of cards. If you want a better job, if you want a better relationship, if you want better friends, if you want better health, you are going to have to let go of what you currently have to create space for the next thing. You are going to have to start again. You get to start again. And if you're watching this to the end, thank you for being part of this start with me, because we're starting a new year of this podcast and I'm starting this new year of my life. I'm excited to start it with you. I really, really, really hope that you learned, that you laughed, that you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for growing up with me. Thank you so much for growing with me. Thank you so much for learning with me. I'm so grateful for you and I'm so excited for this fresh start. Let me know what you want to see this year on the podcast. Let me know what you want to see this year from me. Comment, send me a message, reach out to me via email. I love you. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is our win.